give a huge 4 years from now welcome to Louise Kyhl Triolo. Thank you.
Thank you. It works. Cool. Hi, everybody. I think there's a little bit of a switch going on here. Anyways, I'm super pleased to be here today. Actually, when I first got invited to speak at this conference and I looked at the program overview, I thought, well, where am I going to fit in? All these trends that are going to be discussed over the next days, AI, robotics, fintech, and so forth. And I'm going to talk about people, entrepreneurship, and transformation. And then I saw humans, and I thought, aha, we've actually made ourselves into a trend, which is amazing. So I'm here to put the spotlight on us as human beings, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, game changers, so that we don't forget the important role that we play in this new world that we all live in, and that seems to be flipped upside down every 24 to 36 months. So being here in Spain actually reminds me of 2015, May 2015. I was here on a week-long holiday with my family in northern Spain, and I got a text from my then future boss saying that I would be going to the Silicon Valley to work. I had learned a month prior to that Airbus was going to set up an innovation center and a venture fund in the Silicon Valley. And finally, the group had realized that the world didn't care if we were the aeronautical leader in this world, and that disruptive players and technologists and technologies were coming out of nowhere. And the sky seemed to be everybody's new playing field. Just look at Musk and Bezos and whoever we can name in that field, Branson. So in order to tap into that disruption, Airbus decided to go into the heart and soul of technological innovation. My perspective was slightly different. I'd been working in Airbus helicopters in the south of France in one of our divisions on cultural transformation for the last several years. And it made me feel very much like, you probably know Sisyphus, pushing that boulder up the hill. I don't know if anyone is doing that in their organizations. Yes, maybe not. It's kind of heavy. Anyways, I had learned something from that experience, and that was that the way we work, the way we think, the way we collaborate, the way we incubate ideas in our organizations is all dictated by the culture within which we do it. And if we really want to create spaces and where people are free and have ideas inside organizations, we need to inject at every level entrepreneurship. At all levels, we need to make deep structural changes inside our organizations. And we need to develop leaders to empower people to be their best selves. Because as we know, all innovation is driven by people. And what I knew of the Silicon Valley was exactly that. This amazing place where people are working together from all over the world in this churning pot of innovation. And I thought, well, how do they do that? How do they collaborate? What do their organizations look like? And with all of these thoughts and questions in my mind, and thinking, well, if Airbus really wants to be at the cutting edge of innovation, we shouldn't just tap into the technological innovation of the Silicon Valley. We should also extract the environment within which these technologies are born and infuse that somehow back into the DNA of Airbus. And so I pitched that idea, actually, to the chief of staff of the CEO and to the head of the Silicon Valley projects. And they said yes. And I thought, oh, shit. I'm going to the unknown. I'm leaving my Provence behind with my glass of rosé. What am I doing? Well, 3 months later, I was sitting in Mountain View in a tiny, tiny office. It's actually me there up in the right-hand corner. And with a huge and vague and broad mandate. And 2 new CEOs that we'd hired, one from Google and one from Andersen Horowitz, to set up the Innovation Center and the Venture Fund, and then there was me. And from a completely greenfield approach, and let's call it a desert approach because it felt like that at that time, it was very hot, I had 3 missions. The first mission was to establish the Innovation Center and the Venture Fund from an HR perspective, everything from scratch. The second mission was to start up a leadership university for North America, for our 5,000 people in North America, to help drive change through leadership. And the third mission was to bring back the learnings and practices of the Silicon Valley and infuse that back into Airbus. And of course, the overall mission was to disrupt ourselves before anyone else does, and try to inject a sense of urgency and speed into an organization that is used to thinking in 10 years development cycles. So the first and the second mission, they were challenging. Of course, I didn't know anything about California. It was a new country, new laws, and no one really knew Airbus, by the way. In the Bay Area, Airbus was not known, and I kept saying Airbus, and everybody thought that I worked for ABBA, the Swedish rock band that you probably all know. So I had to pronounce it Airbus, like the Americans do. So it took me about 3 years, now they know. Anyways, at least the first and the second mission were measurable, right? And we could produce things. So we laid out a vision, we laid out a strategy, we hired people, we called them unicorns. I made a little unicorn up there, and people thought we were crazy. But we got things going, and within months, we actually had 3 new ideas pitched and approved. You see them here. And we had also invested in a startup, and I had laid the foundations of a leadership university that was a pop-up university and not an set infrastructure as we had in Europe. The third mission was the challenging one and the difficult one, because how do you grasp learnings and practices, right? It's not that measurable, but it would be the one that really consumed me and still consumes me today, because it's the one where I feel that we have the most potential to tap into existing human potential within our organizations. So bring back the learnings and practices. Just think about it. What does that even mean, right? And I'd actually written that mandate myself, and now I was scratching my head thinking, how on earth am I going to do that? So what I did was I took a first step into the Silicon Valley ecosystem, the coffee shop, because that's where all new business ideas are born, where all the startups are being created, and I networked like mad. I met with everybody I could possibly meet, you name it, of course, old contacts, my kids' parents, friends, even going on an airline when I was going from one place to the other. I was just networking like mad. Industry leaders, innovation leaders, whatever I could find. And I tried to collect data to really find out what was it that made the Silicon Valley from a human perspective. And what inspired me were 3 things. The first one is that Silicon Valley is all about the art of the possible. Innovation, ideas are built upon each other continuously. There is a yes and mindset, not a yes but we can't do it because da-da-da-da-da, that some of you may know or may not. But in some of our European companies, that exists. And there's this belief that anything is possible and you can have a positive impact in the world, and that just drives incredible passion and motivation. The second thing that I found was that the Silicon Valley is all about solving customer pain. The entrepreneurial spirit is really fueled by finding a solution to someone's problem somewhere. And the third thing that inspired me was, well, the Silicon Valley is all about taking risk, right? Risk and failure is a badge of honor. And I could even see that from the CVs that I received, where people move every 6 to 10 to 18 months continuously over a period of 10 years, whereas in Europe, I'd seen CVs with 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the same company. So there's a completely different sense of mobility, of taking risk, of moving from one place to the other. And of course, the Silicon Valley is fueled by money, and I can really say it's on steroids, almost. Just the thought of making more is what fuels taking risks. And it's a lot of VC funding, of course, and there are angels and seeds. And as they say, their innovation flows from the tap. We just have to be a little bit aware of the foam. So that was the Silicon Valley. Now, what about Airbus? we actually had quite a few things in common with the Silicon Valley. We have super talent, multicultural talent. We're at the cutting edge of technology. And we also have a grander purpose. We actually, we could call ourselves the cornerstone of the European success, somewhere, right? But then yet, over the years, we had let bureaucracy, command and control, heavy structures, top-down leadership, just completely dull our capacity to be agile. And I would even say we've gotten completely bogged down in processes and administration that had crushed our pioneering spirit, that is that of our DNA. And we had perhaps even started to lose sight of some of our customers, or customer pains, or customer needs. So we had to learn. And I was lucky at the end of 2015 to attend a program called the Innovation Partnership Program, which is a joint program between Singularity University, the XPrize, and Deloitte. And we had partnered with them as an organization to learn and to expose our leaders to what is happening with emerging technologies, new disruptive business models, and so forth. And who is familiar with the XPrize in here? Hands up. A few of you. OK. So for those of you who don't know the XPrize, it's a nonprofit organization that launches global incentive challenges to help solve for humanity's and the world's grandest challenges. And attending that program, there was one story that I really got inspired by, and it was that of the BP Deep Horizon oil spill that happened in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. You can probably remember it still, yes. No one knew how to clean up the oil from the sea. So the XPrize launched the XPrize Oil Cleanup Challenge. I think there was a $1 million prize. And this guy, from the middle of nowhere, who was a tattoo artist, who loved fishing, and who was fascinated with keeping the marine ecosystem intact, he actually created a sort of a fishing net with a team, and they became finalists of this XPrize, and they used it to skim out the oil from the sea. That, for me, was completely eye-opening. I thought, if it hadn't been for the XPrize, this tattoo artist would never have had the platform to share his idea, his extraordinary idea, and no one would have asked a tattoo artist to clean up the oil from the sea. We would have asked the experts, right? But experts don't have all the solutions. So suddenly, it all came together after a year of collecting data on what made the Silicon Valley, and then with this idea of the XPrize in mind, I thought, I finally found a way that we can bring back the learnings and practices and infuse them back into Airbus. I thought Airbus has huge challenges, like many other legacy companies today in an age of transformation. Why don't we do an XPrize for Airbus? Why don't we ask our 135,000 people in the world to help us shape the future and come up with breakthrough ideas to help us transform? And it would be much more than an idea contest. It would be a way of showing how we trust our people, we trust in their talents, we trust in their ideas, we create a more bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach, and we allow people to dream about the future. And we found our hidden gems, our entrepreneurs and our innovators. So with that in mind, I created a small team, and we just jumped in Silicon Valley style and prototyped and experimented and started to design our dream for Airbus. Of course, in the beginning, we had to figure out, well, what are our big challenges? What are our big challenges for the future? So a little naive me sent a survey to our top managers, top management, monkey survey, you probably know that, and asked them a few questions. What are your big challenges? And guess what I got back? Operational challenges, yes, sell more A380s. A little too late. Fix the A400M, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, very current challenges, and they are indeed important ones because they are in line with our priorities and so forth. But they were not the radical challenges that would bring us new ideas, new markets, and let our people dream. So again, we assembled a small team, very interdisciplinary, and in 2 hours came up with these grand challenges that are very purpose-driven, and it's the first time that Airbus has actually asked the question, how might Airbus transform the daily lives of people so everyone can live longer, healthier, and happier? Wow, that just positions us completely differently in the world. So, with these challenges, in 2017, we launched Dream Big, an incentive challenge for the whole of Airbus, and we received 700 ideas in the form of 60-second videos. We watched them all. They came from all over the world, from Brazil to Finland to Australia, and we selected the 150 best, and the 150 got then invited to the Dream Big Summit, which was a summit to blow away everybody's minds on exponential technologies, but also to come up together in teams of 5, like completely diverse teams of 5, with 30 new moonshots for Airbus. So we actually asked people to let go of their initial idea that they'd come in with and come together and co-create new moonshots for Airbus. And that was quite a disruption in itself, because we tend to fall in love with our own ideas, so actually asking people to let go of them was kind of hard. So we used a practice called Think Wrong that I had come across in my searches for practices in the Silicon Valley. This is a radical problem-solving methodology and framework that helps us, let's say, challenge the status quo and really come up with unexpected results that we wouldn't have otherwise come up with. So it goes against our cultural and biological biases. So it really taps into our culture of going back to the norms and breaking free from that. So we used that to come up with 30 moonshot ideas that we then selected the 3 best, and the 3 best won a learning trip to Silicon Valley, to Bangalore, and to Shenzhen, and the opportunity to incubate together for 3 months in one of our innovation labs, and then present to our top management last summer, a pitch in front of our CEO, and one of the ideas got investment to actually accelerate further, and we're creating our first internal moonshot idea. So to get an idea of
we're looking for
what it was all
great
about,
ideas.
I'll let you watch the video.
Ideas that can change the world. They can change the world of Airbus in the future, and of course can also change your life.
Be bold.
Inspiring.
Intrapreneur.
Opportunity.
Passion. Creativity.
Courage.
Our future. Make it.
Thinking wrong is the ability to conquer biology and culture, to change things from how they are to how they should be.
For us, dreaming is about what sounds impossible.
It's all right to have an idea that's completely crazy.
It's okay to let go of your idea for a bigger one.
The next Himalaya project is a project designed to have sustainable impact to poor farmers around the world, using Airbus technologies and assets to create a digital platform using crowdsourced information to help those farmers increase their yields.
We are CleanX. We actually provide solutions for global pollutions by leveraging on Airbus technologies in air, water and ground.
Crowdcraft is a digital place, a platform, which brings internal and trusted external community members to work together to solve Airbus projects and enable co-creation.
We are very proud of what we have achieved in 3 months, because this is quite a short time frame. We achieved to work on an undefined perimeter in a very diverse team with different skill sets, different experiences, coming from different countries.
Learning by doing. I think this is the most interesting part. It's a people-centric experience.
Our coaches have been incredible. They're more friends than coaches, to be honest with you. The learning trip within Silicon Valley has been eye-opening. We've experienced new ways of working, and we hope we can pollinate these new ways of working within Airbus itself.
The next steps of Dream Big is hopefully to launch another Dream Big and perhaps even create a bigger brand around big. Make big, think big, sell big. Thinking about how we can come up with ideas, solutions for the future, and also how we can think about our current challenges in a different way, and how we can, as I said, unleash the potential of our talents inside Airbus and get them to really not only dream, but actually do and make our ideas become reality for the future. Thank you. So, we have started an extraordinary journey in Airbus, and I want to leave you with the 5 essentials that I think need to be addressed when we are trying to cultivate entrepreneurship within organizations. The first is let go and play. It actually took a year to launch Dream Big. First of all, of course, because of long decision-making cycles and bureaucracy, as we all know, but also because of fear. Fear of trying something new, something disruptive, something we hadn't done before. So I think one of the big things that organizations have to think about is how we can help our leaders let go of control and create safe places for people to be their entrepreneurial selves, if you want. And for that, we have introduced Think Wrong as well as now as a global practice across Airbus, and we're trying to infuse that mindset in an organization where basically the core of our culture is safety, right? So we have this inherent tension between, well, how do we keep this safety focus and yet at the same time take risk in order to innovate? The second essential is inspire the right sponsorship. It took a year, but it also took me myself time to find the right sponsor. And as we know, without having leadership there or the top management in the driving seat, then you can forget about changing anything. So really, we must think about our sponsors. They also sit with the money, and we know that where the money goes is where the priority goes in the end. Be brave and protect. So I can say from my own experience that that translates perhaps into the bigger picture of Airbus is that the environment, the best environment, a breeding ground for innovation is certainly what I experienced myself in the Silicon Valley, that of transparency, of collaboration, of optimism, positive mindset. And I'm not so sure if today I would have been able to even come up with the idea of Dream Big or be so persistent and resilient in the way of driving it inside Airbus had I not been in the Silicon Valley, far away from politics and so forth. So I do think that we need to find a way to create these environments inside organizations where people, again, can feel safe to speak up and take risks. And also, how can we protect our entrepreneurs? Because we know that as soon as we try to do something differently, then the system tries to rein us in and have us abide by the usual rules and the norms. So this sense of protection, I think, is very important if we want radical change to really happen. Bring hope. So transforming is really hard, and it's even harder when things appear to go well, when the company is going well, when money keeps coming in. How do you change, right? The burning platform doesn't work anymore. The fear factor doesn't help. You have to change perspective. You have to inspire people to be part of something bigger. Bring them hope. Give them opportunities to dream. And that will ignite the energy within the organization, within employees, to actually make change happen. And finally, feed the ROI hungry. They need to be fed. What we don't measure has no value. That's how important metric systems have become today in our organizations, right? And perhaps this is my biggest learning and my biggest failure as well, is the metrics talk. Because I don't think we have found today a real way of of measuring innovation. What is our innovation metrics, and how can we find one that actually factors in our strengths, our own strengths, our qualities, our creativity, our relationships, all that can't be seen, basically. So, to end, I would say we have started this extraordinary journey. We've come a long way. We're still not there yet. I'm still pushing boulders up that hill. But we did find a lot of entrepreneurs across the whole of the world, a lot of innovators, and we've created a community that wouldn't otherwise have existed. We found our tattoo guy, Jose, who was still is. He's actually here today, and he's helped me. He's sitting right here. You can stand up so we can see you. He's actually helped me create this presentation today. So he's a shop floor worker working in Madrid, and he's an extraordinary creative designer, and he even makes electric cars in his weekend. So just an absolute innovator, and he's now part of the team that is accelerated as our moonshot and startup idea inside Airbus. So with that, I want to leave you with my favorite saying: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Likewise, I think we should never doubt or underestimate a group of thoughtful, committed employees to change our organizations. Innovation is a human process, and it takes being true to yourself, true to your creativity, your values, your passion, your desires, whether it's on individual, team, or organizational level. So my challenge to you is, how can we create cultures that allow for that? How can we create cultures where humans is not just a trend, and entrepreneurship is not just another buzzword? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Louise Kyhl Triolo. That was very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.